Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Hope all of you guys are having a fantastic weekend. It's been a good weekend for sport. England won the rugby last night. Not really a massive fan about rugby. We drew in the football. It's the US Open final tonight and it was an incredible UFC card this morning. So, what better way to add to that fire by discussing Chelsea Football Club once again here on GBFC. We're going to be talking today about Pochettino's comments on how he felt about the transfer market. We're also going to address the new front of shirt sponsor, Infinite Athlete, for this season, and then the way that this could develop into them moving to the sleeves and new shirt sponsors next year, maybe Saudi money. We're also going to talk about the striker shortlist that is potentially being touted for Chelsea come the January transfer window. Before we do get into any of that though, I do want to say a big thank you to Paramatch UK, today's video sponsor. How would you guys like to net yourself £30 worth of free bets? That's right, our friends over at Paramatch UK, Chelsea's official betting partner, are offering £30 in free bets when you place your first £10 bet on any footballing market with odds of even or above. All you got to do is opt into the promotion when you first make your Paramatch UK account and place a footballing bet within 7 days and you'll get yourself £30 in free bets. Good luck with your bets and let's get back into the video. So without any further ado, let's go and take a look at this comment, which is very interesting, from Mauricio Pochettino. This is from the Blue Dodger. Mauricio Pochettino was asked, how have you found the transfer window? And an interesting response, tough. I knew before I signed that this is the situation. And this is why I'm not complaining and saying nothing negative. I think it's positive, as are the projects they create and have in mind. They are doing a fantastic show in trying to do what they wanted. Don't know about you lot, but this is a very, very weird reply from Mauricio Pochettino. And as much as this week there's been a lot of borderline negativity fueling at the moment from the way that we've addressed certain topics because Chelsea aren't getting results as of yet. But when we look at the transfer window, and for Pochettino to have a record window in terms of expenditure on his team, this is a very odd response in my opinion. To say it was tough is obvious because when Chelsea is signing 11, 12 players, when you've literally got half a squad, if not more, that you're trying to sell, for Pochettino, going into training every single day, he didn't know what he was going to have to work with. Maybe there's going to be 2 or 3 players coming through the door today. Maybe there's another 3 or 4 that were there yesterday that are now gone. So I can understand why it would be tough. But in terms of not saying anything negative, if you read between the lines of this, that does express to me at least, with the way that I read this, that there is actually negative things that he would want to say, but he doesn't really want to go down that path because, well, first of all, you're going to get rinsed and ridiculed by the rest of the footballing world because you could look a little bit, what's the word for this? Spoiled, I think could be the word. If you start complaining about 400 odd million spent, I know the net spend is the important part, but if you start complaining about that, then some people are going to be like, who the bloody hell was this guy? Spent 400 million quid or whatever, and he's still not very happy. But what I do see here is, once again, I think this kind of comment from Pochettino is proof that when it comes to the way that Chelsea's transfer business is done, in the past there have been lots of different calls about whether or not managers have got their signings, the players that they wanted. And I think having spent all of last week questioning the billion that's been spent by Chelsea Football Club, the biggest takeaway that we had, at least from the 3 More Points podcast that I recorded with Harry, my biggest takeaway is that Pochettino still didn't necessarily get what he wanted out of this transfer window. Yes, he wanted a smaller squad. It's a lot smaller than it was last year, but there's still maybe 3 or 4 players, 3 or 4 names that are too many on top of the 23-man squad that Pochettino wanted. And as well as that, just to reiterate all we've said all week, there's still very little, if any, experience in this Chelsea squad. Apart from Thiago Silva, you start looking down from Thiago Silva and you're talking about an always injured Reece James, an out-of-form Ben Chilwell, and the rest, we're just trying to put together now new experience, great young players, but let's wait and see, because in January, Chelsea reportedly have a 3-striker shortlist. Toney is Chelsea's priority target in January. Hearing this is music to my ears, while Ollie Watkins and Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig are also liked by the club. The interesting thing with Toney, we've heard the comments, he came out and said he would like to go to Liverpool or he'd like to go to Arsenal, whatever. I think with Toney, he is going to move. And I think Brentford, as much as Brentford are having a good start to the season, 4 games played, they're unbeaten, you can hear in the voice of Toney when he's doing that interview with Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO, you can tell that Toney knows that in order for him to take that next step up in his career, he needs to go to a bigger club, an ambitious club, and I think it will be one of the top teams in the Premier League. When we look through this 3-man shortlist that we have here, Toney, Watkins, Sesko, Ollie Watkins is another really good option. And I'm actually surprised, potentially, that other clubs in the Premier League didn't look at Ollie Watkins more in the summer. Ollie Watkins has got a brilliant goal-scoring record. I think he would do well as well playing alongside somebody like a Nicholas Jackson. Benjamin Sesko. This is an interesting one because he only joined Red Bull Leipzig this summer as part of that Red Bull group. He went from Salzburg, signed for Leipzig. He scored 2 in his first 2 in the Bundesliga. This guy is absolutely massive. If you've never seen him play, I think he's 194 centimetres, which is way over 6 foot. He's got a good goal-scoring record for Slovenia as well, 7 goals in his 22 international appearances. But 80 million euros for a kid that's only 20 years old, once again. When I look at this kind of money, and I look at this short list of strikers that we're talking about here, Toney, Watkins, Sesko, I want experience. Pochettino wanted experience, and I think it's so important for Chelsea now that as much as we are building this young squad, it's exciting, but it might see us not get the results that we want immediately now. I think whoever we bring in January, considering how much we've spent, considering Pochettino will probably still want some players to potentially leave in January to narrow that squad down even further so that he knows what he's got to work with and what his best team is. So for me, if I'm looking at this here, I would say Toney would be my number 1. Ollie Watkins would be the number 2. And Benjamin Sesko, because he's 20, 80 million euros, Leipzig are not going to sell him for cheap because they've literally gone and just bought him. And that's exactly what the Red Bull model is all about. Salzburg will give him to Leipzig. Leipzig can then make even more profits by selling high again. So, interesting. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. I've made it pretty clear here on GBFC. Toney is the man that I want. Ollie Watkins, I also think is a great striker. And Sesko, not going to lie, I've not known too much about him. But from what I've seen, he's a real handful. Would be a great signing, but 80 million euros in a January transfer window, it's interesting, but I don't think Chelsea will do it. Moving into, once again, a story that comes here from not the most reputable of Spanish source, but Chelsea HQ have said Jonathan David and Antonio Nusa of Club Brugge are Chelsea's 2 main targets for the next transfer window. This is from Fichaje.net, and again, once more, they've also said this week that Enzo Fernandez is already looking to leave Chelsea if results don't improve. It makes sense to sell stories like this one because Enzo Fernandez is quite clearly an incredible footballer who didn't join Chelsea to be down in the doldrums in the bottom half of the Premier League table. He joined to win things, to be in the Champions League. And you look at Jonathan David, a player that we've been linked with now for a couple of windows, and Antonio Nusa also, when we see once more that there are still teething issues with the attack at Chelsea, there is issues with the way that that attack is gelling together still. It's not perfect. I think Chelsea will be linked with a hell of a lot of players between now and the January transfer window, be it wingers, attacking midfielders, and also out-and-out strikers, which I do think is the player that we missed out on during this summer transfer window. We finish. Infinite Athlete will be the front of shirt sponsor this season for a deal worth £43 million. Considering we're already a month into the season, it's a good amount of money. Infinite Athlete will then become the sleeve sponsor from the 24-25 season, with Riyadh Air then becoming the potential front of shirt sponsor. Kayun offered $38 million for this season's front of shirt and came close. So it looks as though Chelsea have got this one done. I had some concerns last week, like, what is the Premier League doing? Like, why are you holding up Chelsea having a front of shirt sponsor? Is it because you know that we all love the shirt as it is without anything on the front? No, but Infinite Athlete coming in, it's good. I don't really care too much about the front of shirt sponsor. You know, I've got my shirt here, which doesn't have a sponsor on it, and I'm very delighted about that one. But again, it is money. Chelsea, 43 million quid. That is a lot of revenue into the club. And to be quite honest, I'm not really that bothered about who the front of shirt sponsor is. It looks all right. If we're talking about aesthetics, Infinite Athlete will be the sponsor for this season. Not going to take up any more of your time than we need to here today on GBFC. Hope you're having a great weekend, and make sure you go and check the links to Paramatch UK. Thanks once again for sponsoring today's video in the description down below. Come on, you Blues.